Om Swastiastu, Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Once again, this is the grand final of the debate that you are waiting for. Today, 21st of May 2021, here in Pullman Hotel, we would like to welcome our grand finalists of the debate. And first of all, acting as a government team, a team from STIP Jakarta. With Muhammad Fadli Ibnu as the first speaker, Shiddiq Aditama as the second speaker, Firdaus Kemal as the third speaker, and the reply speaker will be given by Muhammad Fadli Ibnu. And then, their opponent, coming from PTDI STTD Bekasi, acting as the first speaker is Akila Zahra, acting as second speaker is Gloria Giardin, third speaker as Pratama Intan, and the reply speaker will be given by Gloria Giardin. And now, we would like to introduce our adjudicators today. First of all, coming from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Yogyakarta, Retno Anjani. The next one, coming from Universitas Binus Indonesia, Andre Chandra. The third one, from Makassar Ujung Pandang, Hans Giovanni Salata. And our honorary adjudicator here from University of Leeds, United Kingdom, please welcome Mr. Hywel Coleman. And the last but not least, our chief adjudicator of Iteo 2021 from Yogyakarta, Mr. Rahmat Nur Cahyo. And now, we would like to start our grand final today. To start the case from the government side, here is the first speaker of government team, Muhammad Fadli Ibnu.
Can I start? Good day, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Fadli Ibnu as the first speaker of the government team. And today, I'll be bringing you background and three arguments. And the first argument that I'm going to bring you is that NIP is a counterproductive in achieving a better Asian. And two, is countries are justified to protect themselves. And three, the interference will work and improve the condition in Asian. Okay, first of all, let's go to the background first. As we know, there are already many conflicts that aren't resolved whatsoever by the NIP. We already saw the genocide in Rohingya, the military coup in Myanmar, and we see this every day in news. A lot of people being killed, losing their home, becoming refugees, losing their right as a human being. Know that we want to end this kind of conflict with NIP. It hinders the agenda for Asian to give a clear resolve to the problem. And it cannot give countries to prevent this kind of conflicts. It will hinder the interference straight to the conflicted countries. We need to abolish this to be able to interfere in the agenda of humanitarian interaction. Okay, well, the problem is that in recent years, Asian international credibility has been eroded by its inability to deal with several important regional events and situations. And the goal is for us to achieve Asian goals, to promote regional peace and stability through its inability to deal with Okay, our stance is that we believe this is the time for the Asian to stop NIP because it will make the Asian organization more effective in achieving its goal. Okay, the mechanism that we want to bring you is that we want to first abolish the NIP, and two, we want to allow interference from other countries, like what? Like military intervention and political commentary from other countries. Okay, going to the first argument is NIP is a counterproductive in achieving a better Asian. Why? Because in a humanitarian crisis, conflict created more innocent victims. So why is it justifiable for us to interfere? Asian could not handle the conflict that occurred in Southeast Asia. A lot of people dying, even death resulted. So their purpose of to create stability amongst its members but it's not achieved at all because the non-interference policy, because if we take it into perspective, even political commentary by the government of another country is already a form of intervention. In Asian way, they define interference as something that helps people in the country itself without getting in the way of the sovereignty of that country. So we are just here to act as of humanitarian action to help its people. The protection of life itself is a goal which is justifiable in all corners of the globe. It follows the humanitarian intervention, which has its central aim to protection of life. It is a moral obligation and the right in the realm of international relations. Okay, so here are the examples that NIP prevents to solve the problems that is to be solved. Okay, military coup in Myanmar. Like the military coup in junta now in back to charge and taking Aung San Suu Kyi or the civilian government and has declared a long-year state of emergency. More than 700 people have been killed by the security forces since Myanmar military grabbed power in the coup on the 1st February until now. And in the Rohingya problem, the genocide of Rohingya people died and kicked out of their motherlands. Even the government don't interfere this from the 70s. But this problem has been more elaborate and more dangerous because in the 2012 Rakhine State riots were a series of major conflicts between Rohingya Muslims and the ethnic Rakhine's who are the majority in the Rakhine States. This riot creates a problem in which Rohingya Muslims are being killed due to this day and making more people of Rohingya to be a refugee to other countries. Okay, also the example is Thailand military coup by the General Prayut Chan-o-cha. In 2014, the Thai army staged its 13th coup, claiming to resolve the decade-long political conflict. Sporadic violence, including shootings, bomb attempts, grenades thrown at protesters, led to 28 deaths, over 800 injuries during the course of the protests. Okay, we knew that there's a lot of conflict that happens in Asian countries, but because of this, because of NIP, we can't take action, and we want to oblige this NIP to be able to intervene because there are no internal change from the government itself, of that country itself. We knew that from Myanmar, that they did not admit that the Rohingya as their citizens, giving them no human rights whatsoever, so the Rohingya are just being killed, raped, and their home to be destroyed, becoming refugees to other countries. And for the second argument is countries are justified to protect themselves. A crisis in the country can impact neighboring countries because they are closest in proximity. The impacts can affect the citizens' livelihoods, such as health and safety. As Asian, we should let the country protect their citizens because it's the most important duty. There are many victims who flee from Myanmar as a result of the coup and they become refugees in Thailand, Cambodia, which affect the country's stability and economics. And also in Indonesian wildfire case, when Indonesian forest is being burned down and wildfire spreads in South Sumatra and Kalimantan forest due to the effects of the smokes, not only affecting the Indonesian people, but also the neighboring countries such as Singapore and Malaysia. This effect of this wildfire smoke is affecting Singapore and Malaysian health and economy. Though people find it harsh to breathe fresh air because it is already filled with toxic smoke and they cannot go to their workplace even if they're in a healthy condition. They are forbidden to go outside because it is dangerous to them. So it means that because of this problem, the economic aspect and the social aspect is deteriorated. Plus, if we put NIP in this perspective, because of NIP, Singapore and Malaysia cannot do anything to tell Indonesians to fasten the process to handle the wildfire case in Sumatra and Kalimantan. They just accept this tragedy. As I told you, political commentary is also an intervention, and this NIP doesn't allow intervention at all. Okay, and third argument that I'm going to bring you is the interference will work and improve the condition in Asian. Okay, giving political commentary like condemning military intervention will push the country to change. Without interference, countries, for example, Myanmar junta military, will not feel the need to listen to other countries. They will still hurt innocent civilians because they know that no one can stop them in Asian countries because of this NIP problem. Okay, let's take a perspective. If we put people as the military intervention, we put people in the conflicted area to save people. Well, it's good, right? This is really good to help the humanitarian problem because the government in Myanmar doesn't care about like the Rohingya peoples, right? Okay, with this interference, we can stop violence to innocent civilians and save many lives as soon as possible. We don't need to wait for the government to change because it will not happen soon enough. Okay, for the summary of it all, we could take it perspective. NIP is like a barrier for us to interfere. So imagine it like this. When you see someone being raped, killed in front of your eyes, And this NIP is the law that stops you to interfere with the problem that is in front of you. So where is your humanity? So we need to abolish this NIP to have humanitarian intervention and all. And probably that is all from me. Thank you very much.
So the first speaker of government team spent 7 minutes and 11. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you our motion for today. This House believes that this is a time for ASEAN to end its non-interference policy. So once again, for the audience, our motion today, this House believes that this is the time for ASEAN to end its non-interference policy. Ladies and gentlemen, to start the case from the opposition team, here is the first speaker of the opposition team, Ms. Aqilah Zahra.
Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and also gentlemen, let's think about it. We believe that my team has believed if we all have our own business, we believe that we have our own problem, we have our own perspective of life, we have our own point of view when we have to face the life, we fight our life. So ladies and gentlemen, in this case, that this House believes that this is the time for ASEAN to end its non-interference policy. Why we regret? But firstly, let me give you some philosophy about it. Some kind of you can think about it. If we have our own business, our own perspective, and also our own point of view, and also and we believe and we strongly believe can you imagine if somebody else come to our life and they want to change our perspective, they want to change our own belief? Can you will deal with that? Can you even accept the people that they doesn't even know what the real of you, what the real version of you, and what will you face in the future? And they want to change you. You want to like a brainwashing or give you some kind of advice, but it won't. But it doesn't bring any good for you. That's the first one, and this is about the non-interference policy, which is non-interference policy is a principle which protects a country from other nations intervention, and also this is the main foundation for a certain country and in ASEAN to protect its sovereignty and also jurisdiction itself. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make some negation that the main purposes of ASEAN is to make a stability and peace, to respect the justice and also the law with other nations in ASEAN, ladies and gentlemen. But before I jump to my team argumentation, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, I will give you some rebuttal that the first speaker of the government team has been stated to us. Firstly, they said about they keep talking. My team believes that they keep talking about the Rohingya cases that happen in the Myanmar, and we believe that they only focus on the human rights or humanity itself, where they even focus on the political about the culture and also ideology, safety, and economy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this non-interference, it's not about talking about the human rights, but also other nations' business, other nations' privacy. If you keep thinking about the humanity of a human rights, we all have a human right, we all have our own humanity. So this is not just talking about the human right itself. Can you imagine if the non-interference policy is only focused on the rights of humanity? All nations will implement this, will end in its non-interference policy itself, ladies and gentlemen. And we are moving on to my team argumentation. Firstly, why we are disagree to end its non-interference policy. Firstly, this is the the sovereignty of the country. We believe that every nation has their struggle, have their fighting for achieving their freedom, for achieving their goals, and we also believe that every nation that living in the ASEAN have their own national secret. Though, so we believe that its non-interference policy is avoiding the sabotage and also espionage that can breach it's certain nation itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also, the second is every nation has their own business. They have their own priority, they have their own ideology, and also they have a different political system. Yes, in Indonesia, we use a democracy as our ideology. But in the other hand, in other nation, we have a different ideology with them. So we cannot compare to our ideology, and also, for example, in Brunei, they use a monarchy ideology. We cannot compare with them. So when we have to intervene their business or even their privacy, we cannot do that because we have a different, since the base of or the foundation, we already different. In the Asian Association, we just have, this is a regional association. Doesn't mean that we have the same ideology or something like that. We just live in the same territory, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we live in the same territory, not the same priority, ideology, political system. No, it's not like that, ladies and gentlemen. And the third is ASEAN, ladies and gentlemen. ASEAN is a regional association, not an independent association, ladies and gentlemen. We believe when non-interference is implemented, our nation has rights to intervene a certain country's policies. For example, in Indonesia, we want to make a regulation about economic or a foreign company that come from the other country, and we want to make some some kind like a building or their business in Indonesia. They want to build it, and then they have a rights to make a policy with us too. At the end of the day, we have to make the regulation that with them, and also they will make a regulation that has more benefit to their country, not us, ladies and gentlemen. And also, we believe that if this kind of non-interference policies will be ended, the worst case scenario that will happen is ASEAN will no longer be an association who consists of 10 nations, but ASEAN will be an association which lead by one nation, which means the strongest country, the superpower country that are living in Asia will lead this nation. So Asia will be led by one country who has the strongest power, by its economic, education, and many of ladies and gentlemen. I think that's all from me. My next argumentation will be elaborated with my second and my third speaker. Thank you. That's why I stand to oppose this motion.
Okay, thank you very much for the second speaker of the opposition team, Gloria Giardin. She spent 6 minutes and 48. 6 minutes and 48. And now, to continue the case from the government team, we would like to welcome the second speaker of the government team, Mr. Siddiq Arditama.
Check. Okay, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Good day, everyone. Okay, here I'm as the second speaker of the government team. First, I'd like to give some rebuttals about the statement that is delivered by the first speaker of the opposition team. Okay, I'll directly go to my first rebuttal. First, they talk about the country in Asia have their own point of view, point of culture, and believe that if you take example, she said that if we take an example, if we have our own point of view and there is someone that is going to intervene, we won't be happy about that. Okay, but we believe that if we are talking about the country, there are a lot of aspects, a lot of sides. Okay, for example, in a country we have two sides, a government and people. Okay, when the one that makes the chaos is their own government and the one that is need help is their people. Okay. When there's a country that is going to help the people in that country, but the one that is rejected is their own government, okay? Because they have voice, they have power to reject it, while the people is not. So will we listen to that bad government while they hurt their own people, okay? So the thing that we have to remember is we are going to help the people, okay? Next, the second rebuttal is when they talk about the Asian countries only live in same area, okay? But have different ideology, different kind of culture, and also different kind of problem, okay? But if we think about a problem that is the possibility of that problem is happen, of course, it is not connected with their ideology or their own culture, because when the country is getting problems such as chaos or economic problem and many else, okay, we cannot stand just to see them without doing nothing while we are in the same organization in ASEAN, okay? The third is the first speaker of the opposition team state that if we are going to let, if the non-interference policy is going to be delayed or prohibited, okay? They said that ASEAN will only lead by only one nation, okay? We believe that this is not true because of what? As we know, the ASEAN is an organization that is going to help each other, okay? We are together in the same organization as like ASEAN, okay? And the interference that we are going to take is such as humanitarian action, okay? So our action that we are talking about is to help the problem in a conflicted country, okay? Not the action that is going to take over the another country, okay? So we are going to take those kind of interference to help, not to take over the another country. So the possibilities of the ASEAN is going to lead only by one nation is not going to happen, okay? I'm going to mark my first argument that I'm going to talk about the further impact if we stay in the status quo. It calls a domino effect, is the nation problem become the regional problem, okay? We believe that in one country in ASEAN has a major conflict or economic crisis, it will affect other countries in the ASEAN starting from the closest country with the conflicted one. The analogy is like Myanmar has a major conflict that affects their economic growth. The consequences is the trade between Myanmar and Thailand will be disturbed and maybe cut off, okay? As we know that Thailand has a close trade relation with Malaysia because the distribution cost is very cheap, okay? But because Thailand has a problem with Myanmar, the trade between these three countries will be affected, okay? And the problem will spread to another country, to Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines, and etc. So this kind of analogy explains the domino effect that one country's problem can affect the other countries. Even the effect is not directly, but in the end, we believe that it will spread widely, just like the analogy, okay? The consequences of not only conflict, but also the financial crisis drew attention to the unavoidable settings of a globalized economy and seemed to demonstrate that the cooperation model structure around the prioritization of national sovereignty was inventive in coping with this independency. I'll give two examples. For example, the 1998 economic crisis that happened in Thailand and Arab Spring accident that started from Tunisia dictator President Ben Ali Coup, okay? The first is about economic crisis in 1998. The 1997 until 98 Asian financial crisis began in Thailand and then quickly spread to neighboring economies. It began as currency crisis when Bangkok unpatched the Thai baht from the US dollar, setting off a series of currency devaluation and massive flights of capital. The second is Arab Spring accident. Jobless graduate Muhammad Bouazizi starts selling vegetables without permit, okay? When police sees his chart, he sets fire to himself and later dies. The act following publication of US criticism of regime provokes the young Tunisians to protest. It began in response to oppressive regimes and low standard of living, starting with protests in Tunisia. From Tunisia, the protests then spread to 5 other countries, Libya, Egypt, Yemen, Syria, and Bahrain, where either the ruler was deposed, Zain al-Abidin, Ben Ali, Muammar Gaddafi, Hosni Mubarak, and Ali Abdullah Saleh, or major uprisings and social violence occurred, including riots, civil wars, or insurgencies, okay? The Arab Spring is a movement in the Middle East that aims to end authoritarian rule and corruption while trying to gain democracy and economic opportunity, okay? we can see from this one guy that it could lead to a chain reaction that caused insurgence of the people. Because of that, the countries collapsed and inspired to other countries to protest too, okay? Tackle back of invasion issue, because in Asian, it works with majority rules, which when there is a problem in Asian countries, they will vote whether to supply them with help or not, making the other Asian countries to not be reckless with their action. So for example, if they want to do something to help a country, they won't directly do it. Of course, they are going to have such a meeting with all of the Asian member. Okay, so action from the Asian countries will be controlled and sensible to take action too. So this is why this kind of non-interference policy have to end. Okay, probably that's all from me. Thank you.
The second speaker of the government team spent 7 minutes and 16. 7 minutes and 16. Then, to continue the case from the opposition team, we would like to have Ms. Gloria Giardin.
Before I deliver my speech, I would like to give you some points of responses for the government. From the first speaker to the second speaker, they're always focused on the Myanmar cases, which is about the humanity. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look. The interference itself between some countries, or maybe more than two countries, could be happen not only if we only mention about the humanity. What if the interference happens in the economic, also politics, ladies and gentlemen? Next point, they also mentioned that what if there is a genocide and the government is bad, so they didn't listen to the citizen. But ladies and gentlemen, once you choose your leader, means that you put your trust in the leader. The leader must have a lot of consideration before they take an action to a problem in the country. So we can make such a conclusion that the government is bad because they never hear the citizen when the citizen is suffering. Next, they also mentioned that by this the end of the non-interference policy, then Asian won't be led by only one country. But if you think again that if you trust one country to help another country, then the country will feel like they are stronger than another country. They have power to help the country. They could feel like they are the number one in the Asian. So it could make the country feel like they are the leader now. They could help every country in the Asian. Next, no, thank you. Next, they mentioned about the monetary crisis in 1988. Which is Indonesian, the problem in Indonesian. But actually, when the problem happened in Indonesian asked for help. This is not an interference anymore. So they bring up the wrong evidence. So jump to my speech. I would like to give you 5 points. First, the non-interference policy is the original core foundation upon which regional relations between Asian member states are based. It is expressed that the member states are determined to prevent external interference in order to ensure the domestic and regional stability. What is the function of this in non-interference policies? The function is an arrangement for the prevention of any acts by Asian member states that would possibly undermine the authority of the dominant political elite and upset domestic governments in any of member states. And why Asian used these non-interference policies? First, the particular importance attached to state sovereignty by the Southeast Asian state as a result of their historical experience like colonial rules, Cold War experience, frequent attempts by China to export communism all reinforce internal conflict and led the Southeast Asia to perceive sovereignty as a key element in ensuring regional all well as domestic stability. And second, the priority assigned to preserving domestic stability as internal security matters are considered to be of fundamental importance. This factor stems from the country's fragility of the social and political orders, which has made the domestic field their main security focus. Also next, I would like to talk about the principle of the non-interference. The principle of the non-interference policies is that sovereignty states shall not interfere in each other's internal affairs. So it's based on the respect for state sovereignty and territorial integration, which governs the relation between states in regards to their rights and obligations. So actually, the member of the ASEAN itself have very different political system, interests, also the priorities. So we can, because of the country is like human, we have different mindset, we have different ideology. So we can intervene other people mindset. We can put our hand in their business because we have a very different background, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we want to mention. And then next, if you want to end these non-interference policies, then you have to make a guarantee that how confident the country immunity to future the Asian interference in the absence of the non-interference principle. Because these non-interference policies already stand for a long, long time. And why the government won't stop it suddenly now? Because it already stands a long, long time, and there is no kind of interruption from the Asian countries, and there is no problem with the members because this non-interference policies brings welfare for the member of the ASEAN, because they feel like the internal problem in their country is their business and not other country business. If they need help, they will ask for help, not because of they are suffering, so you have to intervene their problem in the country. So basically, we as the opposition believe that this non-interference policies brings a lot of welfare for the Asian members because of the domestic problem itself have to be solved in that country, not by the interference from another country. Because the Asian itself have their own purpose to give the welfare for every country, but by interference the country's domestic problem, we cannot walk to the purpose of the Asian itself. So we have to just focus on the purpose of the Asian, but we don't have to put our hand on the problem of the domestic problem in the Asian members itself. So because of that, we want to ask the government, what if how can you only focus on the humanity itself? But if you and this non-interference policy, it means that the country can make an interference in the economics, also politics. What if the Singapore, as an advanced country, put their hand to Indonesian economic? What's going to happen to our country? So if you only think about the humanity, you have to think twice again. So because of that, these non-interference policies should stand for this Asian and also the welfare of every Asian members country. So we believe that this motion should fall. We beg to oppose, and you better relax next time. Thank you.
Thank you. The second speaker of the opposition team spent 6 minutes and 17. 6 minutes and 17. Okay, then to close the case from the government team. So here is the third speaker from the government team, Mr. Firdaus Kemal.
Good day, everyone. My name is Firdaus Kemal. As a government whip, I would like to tell you about the rebuttals and the clashes that occurs during today's debate, right? So, the rebuttal first. They said that the NIP is to ensure regional domestic stability by the neighbor state. So, this is not true. Why this is not true? If a conflict happen in one of the country in the ASEAN, we believe that the conflict itself can harm their own economy. So the neighboring countries, the closest countries that having a economic threat with them can be also affected. So where is the stability here when the conflict itself, without the non-interference itself, can harming other countries, right? So there will be no domestic stability, and also the NIP makes sure of the sovereignty because sovereignty cannot be harmed internally. So first of all, the NIP itself, the principle of interference itself is not harming the sovereignty by internally, right? We are going to help the other countries by such as Myanmar to stop its action towards the people by giving economic embargo or also diplomatic commentary. So we are not going to harm it internally. And also, they said that an IP itself have already stand so long, and because it's bring welfare for the ASEAN member. First of all, the ASEAN can still stand until this long. It is because not the NIP itself, because the economic relation between its country, right? So and also they have a strong will for the standing of the ASEAN itself. And also the crisis that occurs during today's debate is the necessity of the NIP. They said that NIP is needed because every country have their own business, and every nation have their trouble, and international NIP can bring the solution. First of all, this is not true. Why? Because if the non-interference is not the solution for every country to end its conflict. And also, we believe that they said that NIP should be protected to protect the sovereignty itself, as the NIP can bring that as NIP can bring. So first of all, we believe that the sovereignty needs to be protected at all costs, right? So every country has their own sovereignty also. By letting the states country, the neighboring countries in prolonged conflicts, we believe that it can harm the sovereignty of the countries, the neighboring countries itself, as they can create the domino effect, such as the economic crisis, and also the destructive of the stability itself, as if they have a refugee like Myanmar do. And also, they said that we have our own policy and ideology and political situation, so we don't need to interference. Yes, we believe that every country have that also. So what about Myanmar, right? So in the first place, they have their own policy and ideology and political situation, and then comes the junta military that coping over there. So what happened here? Their own people destroy their own policy and harms the people itself. So we need to interference to stop what they do to their own people, as to keep the stability in our region. And also, the NIP implement, they said that if non-interference policy applied, we can interfere other country, right? As they give example, giving a regulation to the foreign company, and it is actually inconsistency that we found on their argument. So how does the NIP can make this country interfere to the other country if about the regulation to the foreign company? It is a deal, and it's need to be done in the very first place when the company itself trying to put their business on the country itself. And also, they said that once you choose your leader, you have to accept the consequence. What happened? So, Judge, what happened in Myanmar, right? They don't choose the junta military, right? They have the San Suu Kyi in the very first place, and the junta military doing a coup, as my first speaker said. So, what about in this? In this condition, do we still need to accept the consequences that they are oppressing the people? Do the people itself have to accept that the government try to oppress them? And also, even if in other country, as example, when a president candidate, they as usual, for their campaign, they will tell you all the sweet thing, right? So it is why the people choose the president itself. So when the president comes to as the chairman of the country and neglecting all of the promises that they have made in the very first place, should the citizen itself accept that? No, of course not. We have to fight and for our rights. Probably that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Firdaus Kemal. You spent 6 minutes and 56. 6 minutes and 56. And now it's time to close the case from the opposition team. We welcome Pratama Intan.
Would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So this motion is talking about this House belief that this is the time for ASEAN to end its non-interference policy. So we stand as the negative team, would like to give some kind of rebuttals about the first and second and third speaker of the government team or the affirmative team that has already taught us before. So the first speaker of the government team or the affirmative team said that they give us an AP or the definition about this motion that they are only focusing to the humanity or about the human rights that disturbed by the country. And then take an example, just like in Myanmar, Rohingya that are not fulfilled by the human rights, and then the Rohingya ask help. No, thank you. Ask help for the other country. So they are they are thinking that it is the time for us to end up this non-interference because of the humanity of the Myanmar or the citizen of the Myanmar or Rohingya is not fulfilled by their country, their own nation. So they only focusing about this one sector, but they forget about the other sectors, just like the economy, social budaya, social culture, and then politics or something like that. And then the second is about they don't define us about the purpose or the aim of the creating of ASEAN organization, because of what organization is creating or is create to make a same purpose with other countries. So ASEAN is consists of 10 countries. So we don't only focusing about the Myanmar, but we still have 9 countries, such as like Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, or other countries in ASEAN. And then, no, thank you. And then the third is they only focusing about the humanity, just like such as some like that, like before, that it is a non-interference policy is not talking about the humanity only, but it talking about the safety, human rights, economic, social, and culture. So we can take an example from this culture that if we end up this non-interference, just like Indonesia, Malaysia take or claim our culture, just like before there's a problem, just like they claim our batik, and then our culture, just like Reok Ponorogo, and then they claim that our island it's their own. So in that case, we can see that it is kind of an interference policy, that if we end up this kind of policy, means that other country can take control other country, just like that. And then we can also take an example, just like as we know that Singapore is the only one developed country in ASEAN, the only one developed country in ASEAN. So if we end up this kind of policy, we can say that in the end of the day, Singapore can take control or can interference other country because of their power, as the developed country. So by seeing that kind of fact, we think that it is not the time, or we cannot end up this kind of non-interference policy in ASEAN. And then moving to this, my rebuttals for the second speaker of the government team, the first point is they said that the rejecting or their citizen of the country will ask help for other country because of they are rejecting by their own government. So here we can say that if we want to help other country or the citizen of the other country, we have the scam or the procedure to help them. Because of what? We can take an example. If we enter other country, we should fulfill just like we should have a passport, and then visa or something like that. And then means that if we would like to help other citizens of the country, of other country, means that there are a regulation or rules that can be ruled of the country to help other country itself. So by seeing that kind of example, we also still believe that non-interference policy will be not end up. And then the third, and then the second is they said that before the crisis problem in Myanmar, they only talking about Myanmar, and Myanmar. They're not seeing other country that have also a kind of problem that affect not by the humanity but others sector. And then they said also that if there's something problem by the country, it will be affect with other country. So that's why other country that get affect will give some kind of they will have some kind of point of view, and then the community of the ASEAN, we believe that every organization have the community who take responsibility of many sectors. So it will be differentiated by sector and sector. So example, just like the community of the human rights, and then there's the community of the safety, and then economic, social, and culture. So if there's something affect for other country, so that country will give some kind of point of view or their appreciation to the community. So the community will give that kind of support or that kind of appreciation to other countries. So here we have the community of the ASEAN. That's why we don't believe that by end up this not interference policy will be the better solution. And then my first and second speaker have already told you about the 10 points. So we still believe that this match will be won by us as the opposition team. Thank you.
Thank you, third speaker of the opposition team, Pratama Intan. You spent 7 minutes and 28. 7 minutes and 28. And now to conclude the case from the opposition team, we would like to welcome the reply speaker of the opposition team, Ms. Gloria Giardin.
Standing as the reply speaker, I would like to give you the comparison our debate today. Under the motion, this House believes that this is the time for ASEAN to end its non-interference policies. The government come and they mention from the first speaker to the third speaker that always bring about the humanity because they're a big problem in the Myanmar. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look. A country is not about the humanity. A country is about the economy, the politics, the education, and so on. So if you just only think about the humanity, what if you put the non-interference policy away and then a country come and put their interference towards the economic and the politics? Second, they also mentioned that they are always, they want to reach the stability, but let's take a look to the non-interference itself. This non-interference policies is created in order to ensure domestic and regional stability. How can you say by these non-interference policies there is instability because of a country face a problem in their humanity? We cannot take one example as a point of view. We can take humanity as a point of view when you bring the stability itself. Also, they mentioned about the government itself didn't hear the citizen, but they also like blaming the Myanmar's government because the government didn't take any action. But also we cannot blame the government. The government have a lot of consideration before they take an action. So you cannot just only blame the government because the government must put their attention also in their economic. Maybe they put it in politics, so they cannot take an action directly to the problem. Next, they also mentioned that they want to put the NAP as the solution, not the non-interference policies. But actually, this NAP is just focused on what they wanna do is to reach the humanity in the country, not about the economic, also politics. Also, they mentioned that about the monetary crisis in Indonesia, but actually they cannot differentiate the case because the case is not about the interference, but it is because of Indonesia asked for help because of they need the support from the country. Also, we as the opposition mentioned that every country have different political system, interests, and priorities. What if a country come with their own ideology, their own priorities, their own belief, and they put their interference in the country? What the country gonna face if a country with a different background come and put their interference because they feel they are more powerful, they're powerful, and they have the chance to put their interference into the country. What if Singapore, as a defense country, get the chance to put their interference to Indonesia because Indonesia have economic crisis? Maybe what if the Singapore come and put their interference in our economic, and maybe they could be they could control the Asian members if we apply the interference policies. Also, we also mentioned about what if the non-interference policies and then the country can have the strong immunity in face the future Asian interference. What if the country is not strong enough to get the interference from another country? What if the country is not strong enough to face another countries when another countries put their hands into the countries that face the problem? So we believe that every internal problem should be solved in the internal. We cannot bring the internal problem to the outside because that is what the government should solve. Because when the problem comes, it means that it has to be solved by the government itself. We don't want to make them to the external because we believe that the government is the one that really knows about the country. The government is the one who really know about the citizens. So because of that, because of the country have its own ideology, because the country have its own experience, the historical experience that create their sovereignty, that's why the sovereignty itself have to be protected by the government, not because of the interference from another country. So we believe that this motion should fall, and PTD STIP should win this debate today. Thank you.
Thank you, the reply speaker from the opposition team. She spent 4 minutes and 8. And now it's time for the government team to conclude the case, and please welcome the reply speaker of the government team, Mr. Muhammad Fadli Ibnu.
Okay, I'll be the reply speaker of the government team. But today, first of all, what they're focusing, the opposition team are focusing on the examples, right? They're only focusing that we only bring Myanmar as it is a humanitarian problem, right? But in here, they didn't rebut the thing that we say is NIP is harmful because of the intervention, right? And also, they always say Asian NIP is good, there and there, but they didn't give the details that NIP is good for the regional stability at all. And if we compare it to us, the NIP that we introduced to you is something that not allows people to interfere. If people it helps, they cannot be helped, right? Okay. And also, they also bring a statement that every country has different policy and ideology. And first of all, again, they didn't they didn't have the ability to process this kind of statement. So this statement could not be used in this kind of debate. Okay. And something that they didn't rebut is two things. That countries are justified to protect themselves, right? That is what what our government team already given you as a statement. Because if a crisis in a country, that I said, a crisis in a country still happens, prolongs, it will go to other country. And the other country who get this harmful action cannot interfere because of this NIP policy at all, NIP policy, okay? So also, the second thing that they didn't rebut is the domino effects, right? They still didn't rebut this from the first and the third speaker, okay? Because we already said in the statement why NIP is harmful, because the domino effect, right? The domino effect, if one crisis happens, right? What the second speaker said, if the one crisis happens in that country, it will affect the other country surrounding that country, like the economic crisis, like the forest fire that Aldi told you about. Okay, for comparing, the interference that they explain is the interference of what? Of the country's sovereignty. But we already say in our interference that the interference as something that helps the people in the country itself without getting in the way of sovereignty of that people. And we focus this on the humanitarian action because we don't want to go to politics or economy. We want to help them in humanitarian action. And we also give you an intervention if the country didn't change itself. As I already told you as the first speaker, we would want to do political commentary and military intervention. So the people that need help in the country will get help, right? Okay, and also the different ideology, right? The different ideology, they're brainwashed because of this intervention. That's what the opposition team said. Well, we already told you that it is humanitarian action, right? We don't humanitarian action. So the focus is just to help people, not brainwashing them, right? Also, to the comparing, is they already chose your leader, so you have to accept the consequences. And this statement is really contradicting because, as the third speaker said, if you accept the consequences, will you be accepting the consequences that you get hurt, you get killed in the process of what the government did in that situation, right? In the problem. And also, sovereignty can be banned internally. Okay. First of all, we say that, and in our government team, we already give you real harms that if NIP is still being implemented in Asian countries, it will just bring more harms than good itself. Because what the opposition team didn't give NIP as a solution. Okay, and probably that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Fadli Ibnu. As the reply speaker of the government teams, you spend 4 minutes and 28. And ladies and gentlemen, the honorable adjudicators and all audience, that's all the grand final of debate competition ITO 2021. So congratulations to all the grand finalists, STIP Jakarta and PTDI STTD Bekasi, for your performance, and once again, may the best team wins. So once again, please give big applause to all the grand finalists. To all grand finalists, you may return to your seat, and to all adjudicators. Okay. Thank you. So you may return to your seat. Thank you very much. So I'm signing out. Thank you and have a nice day.